Alright everyone, a crisis has been averted in Chile. The people there have overwhelmingly rejected a socialist constitution. That is, the current constitution of Chile was designed during the Pinochet era, or Pinochet. There are multiple pronunciations, and apparently it was never actually made clear which one was the correct one. So I'll just say Pinochet or Pinochet, and I'll use them interchangeably because it literally doesn't matter. You know who I'm talking about, the dude who regrettably tossed a bunch of people out of helicopters, but did manage to make it the only stable economy in South America at the time because he didn't like socialism. The sort of brutalismus, hyper-capitalism of Chile under Pinochet actually worked. Just required that the communists be purged and so forth. But we'll get past the helicopter jokes for right now. So that constitution's still in place. And some people there who mark themselves as progressive, it's a wolf in sheep's clothing sort of thing. They're like, well, this is a bigoted constitution built by a dictator. This doesn't represent what Chile is about. We need more progressivism, more indigenous inclusion, and, you know, all the buzz terms they use in other countries to try to introduce communism, which is what they're trying to do. Chile is already under socialist rule, but the constitution remains intact, giving at least some degree of protection against the worst excesses of a system that will inevitably collapse itself and then blame the CIA or usurping capitalists. This is the game of socialism. We've seen it in Venezuela, we've seen it in Cuba, we've seen it pretty much everywhere else. If things go wrong, it can't be because we screwed up. Our form of socialism either wasn't puristic enough or somebody else got involved. I remember when Salon and similar groups years and years ago, when Venezuela's quality of life was rapidly rising because of huge centralized investment based on debt. And this was under Chavez before Maduro. And they called it an economic miracle. Bernie Sanders was praising it. People like Warren were saying, we need to be better. We need to do more like the nation of Venezuela to help people. We should be more like the socialists down there. And then it started to collapse, and almost immediately, and their inflation rate down there is catastrophic still to this day. Now they say, well, it wasn't really socialism. No. It's actually capitalism. It's there to blame because you have some semblance of a private market. Yeah, I mean you have a huge black market in Venezuela, especially for pets. I'm assuming that's called dinner. That's usually a sign that communism or socialism has overrun your economy. You're eating your pet instead of petting it, or your pet has starved and you're using the bones to flavor your meager acorn soup or something like that. So congrats to the people of Chile. You've managed to hold the line and you have at least some defense against the worst aspects of leftoidism. I suggest that you kick out your socialist government. It's a terrible idea to flirt with these things. It always sounds good on paper. We're going to give more welfare. There will be more inclusion. It's a kinder, gentler system. Please show me where that has actually been the case. It doesn't matter what a socialist says. It only matters what they do. Same was with anyone. Politicians of every stripe tell you 10,000 things on the campaign trail. They get elected and usually it's totally different. There are very few people who are actually there's consistency there, or at least an attempt to generally be consistent. Even the better politicians typically deviate wildly. It's like Trump derangement syndrome is based on the entire premise that Trump actually did much of what he said he wanted to do. Even though what he said was the same as everyone who ran before him for the last 30 years. He actually walked the walk and people freaked out because they weren't used to a politician doing that. In the case of socialism, you're usually hoping they don't do what they say that they're going to do. But when you have this kind of new wave, progressive propaganda-based socialist movement, what they say that they want to do is always couched in the sort of comfy terms that you would get in a freshman college course on human studies. It's what, in college, you go to university, and, you have to do all the orientation bullshit. And you're holding hands and doing trust falls and stuff and talking about how great other cultures are other than your own. And you're like, well, man, you smoke some weed, of course. Man, can't we just all get along? Wouldn't it be nice if there was no war? Aha, says the socialist. I know a system that can help you. Yes, everything will be hunky-dory. No, there will be no crime. And we won't have any pollution because everyone will be riding solar-powered trams. And we can do all of these great things. Just vote for us. Here, go knock on doors. Oh, by the way, you might want to wear this red bandana and armband while you're doing it. But don't worry. We don't have anything in common with any communist movement. We're social democrats. It's a pig and a pokerism. It's bullshit. The people of Chile are right to reject this, and the excesses of the new constitution appear to be the reasoning for that. It even lost in Santiago. So to be clear, in the most urban, cosmopolitan, progressive, leftoid part of Chile, it still got narrowly rejected. And so now you see sad socialists slumming it around on the streets. Good. Rejected again. They will try again. They will either seek to use the courts to undermine your constitution and nullify it effectively, or they'll just start shooting, because socialists are fond of doing so. If you happen to have any arms, I think they already disarmed a bunch of people in Chile, if I remember correctly, last year. They probably should get lost in a boating accident. By that I mean they should be in your wall or under your floorboards. You can probably still get high-powered gas rifles and shit like that. You can probably import them semi-legally from, I don't know, Brazil. Bolsonaro might help you out if you end up with a socialist coup. You should just kick out the whole socialist government, though. You should bring back hyper-capitalism. Chile advanced rapidly because of this, thus setting it apart from most of its contemporaries as actually having a long-term, generally stable economy. All you had to do is throw some people out of helicopters, but those communists never valued human life to begin with, and then complain about human rights violations. It's always been strange, especially when it comes from China. Have you noticed that they're constantly complaining on Twitter, with the backing of Twitter, because they are verified, Xinhua News, by the way, Twitter, constantly rambling about U.S. human rights violations. Oh boy, the pot calling the kettle iron. Jesus Christ. But yeah, the socialists have failed in their final stage of their coup. They've managed to take the government, but they haven't managed to take over the Constitution. You still have hope. To be clear, the people of Chile, which have been moving to the left for some time, just rejected a replacement to a Pinochet constitution. And it was by about 30 points. I'm not seeing half as much as I should by the legacy media in the West about the importance of such a thing. It shows the excess of Gabriel Boric's regime, to tell the truth. That's about all. Peace out.